Hello, this is the Union team to talk about the next Flyte release, the 1.3 release that's going to go out at the end of the year, 2022. Our plan today is just go over the roadmap for 1.3 and also talk about some of the big features that we are slating for this next release. Let me share my screen. Wait, how do I do this on Zoom? Share screen is green. Great. Do you guys see my screen? Man, you are not exaggerating. Zoom is really weird. Now it went to my other monitor, but anyways, can you see my screen?
Yes.
And is the Zoom okay?
Mm,
I'll just increase it a little bit. Give
one
me a
more.
sec. Yeah. Maybe now?
That's too much. Zoom out. Perfect.
Good. Amazing. So gonna go through this list real quick. We're planning to make small change to simplify and synchronize the releases of all components. Another change in that vein is the move to the monorepo. So we're gonna, go through the usual process of proposing RFC and why we're doing this, but we feel that we have so many repos in the Flyte org, and every single time that someone has to make a change, for example, like in Flyte IDL, they have to touch like a gazillion repos, wait for all changes to propagate. So we thought that the dev experience will be simpler if we invest in actually getting the monorepo. And just for a data point, at this point in time, today is the October 3rd, the cloud team inside Union had successfully moved to a monorepo. So we don't expect that this is going to take a long time. It's just to, broadcast that we're actually doing this for open source as well. It's a little bit unusual, but we feel that overall the cost will outweigh the benefits will outweigh the cost of actually having, a simpler way to test these changes that cross repos, which are not so infrequent. Besides that, we have a few bugs and tickets that we already, decided to work on the 1.3 release, including changes like this bug that's highlighted here, where we don't have a great way to refresh the client secrets in case Propeller is running. I'm not saying then and here I'm looking at you, I'm not saying we're gonna do this. I just want to invest some time in understanding like how complicated this would be, and maybe assign this ticket and someone can work with you to get this done. We also feel that like also in the same theme of improving the dev experience, like we want to be able to diagnose failures in any point of our authoring experience, including when people interact with the sandbox deployments. So small feature just to help people from one single command get a sense of what's broken with their sandbox deployments, because we get questions every week about why my sandbox is not starting when it's in some screwed up state. So again, we just want to make the lives of users a little bit better. So keep going. Flyte kit then made this change in the backend to like unify how we define pods and containers, but this change did not propagate yet to Flyte kit, and we should invest some time in making that a reality. It'll be way simpler to stop with this arbitrary definition. Again, people come to us every week and they are a little bit confused about, hey, when they should go with a pod or a container task in Flyte. This will simplify also the dev experience. This bug is part of a project that he is leading. It's essentially item 250. Wait, where is it? No, 251. We want to expose an API to let people specify like global settings per project, right?
I'm not actually entirely sure how 250 is related to 251. But yes, I think it is at the very least dependent on 251. So
we can talk about like how they are related, but
Yeah.
it's just in terms of like actually calling the API to get these project level like settings. But
Yep.
anyways, yeah. 252 is small tactical bug, like by Flyte run should offer a more consistent experience when you're not like in the right directory. 253 is one of the big features coming in the 1.3 release, where we're gonna have human in the loop tasks in the system, including like how you define them and visualize them in Flyte console, and how you define them in the actual like authoring experience, like in Flyte. Yeah, expect more details on this. It's a feature that a lot of people ask for, but we've had some trouble in defining like the actual like surface for it. But I think we found a reasonable compromise there. We have a version for 1.3. 254. As you probably know, we have the Spark plugin, but it doesn't expose all of the or a lot of the Spark API. We just want to make the lives of people who want to configure tasks that use Spark a little bit better. 255. We're not entirely sure if it's really coming in 1.3, but I left it there then just in case we need to sync up, see how much work it is, prioritize, given the gazillion things that you and everyone else wants to do in this release. 256 is work happening in this. I won't go into too much detail. It looks like a small bug in the AWS deployment. We hope to get it out in 1.3. This ticket's not super well defined. Huh? What is this feature? Do you remember? This is for like the doc hub stuff, right?
This is, yeah, ignore that. That is like almost like a placeholder ticket. I think it points to a more detailed ticket, but yeah, that is just for the thing that Kevin is working on.
Yes, cool.
And it should be done shortly.
Amazing. Yeah, so for 1.3, also in the same vein of improving our users' lives, we are working on improving not only the deployment guides, but the actual like instructions on how to troubleshoot and deploy stuff in AWS and GCP. These three tickets are kind of like in the same vein. Oops. Support for Dask. We had an external contributor who wanted to make this Dask plugin a reality. We need to work a little bit more with him then, and I don't know who else. I think it's a great addition to the Flyte ecosystem. I don't know if there was any more movement on this. But again, this falls into the category of, having an idea of how much work this would be to get support for Dask in 1.3. 261 is not a greatly named ticket, but essentially it's just a feature to make testing a bit more secure, so that we can publicize our tests more widely. I want to talk about 263, which is in this 1.2 release, we had an external contribution that created conda packages for our main repos, including Flyte, a bunch of like the Flyte plugins, UnitML, Pandera, and but there's a lot more work there. I would say less than 1/3 of the currently implemented plugins in Flyte have the corresponding conda packages. So some housekeeping here to actually have the remaining Flyte plugins created as a conda recipe. And also this work also involves like documenting how to do it. It's not a lot of work, but like we just want to get it done this next release. People like I would love to have more OSS people here, but this is one of the features that like 264 is one of the features that people in OSS asked for. It essentially lets us specify in the definition of a task extra dependencies. We have more to say about this in the next few months. 265, small bug. We're not really caching the result of Flyte decks. Should not be a whole lot of trouble. 266, this is an idea, again, based on OSS feedback, that people want examples of how to run CI/CD workflows, and we just want to provide a template like how to do this. 267, it's a bug. Not a whole lot to talk about this. 268, I'll be honest, and I think this isn't that feature that Nick was working on. No, this is Spotify. Oh, oh my god, sorry. I feel like we talked about this then. Do you remember much? Like, what's the state of 268? This feature of like people want to remove old executions and what else from the database? Yeah, we just want to like.
I don't recall. We'll probably have to revisit this one. I'm not sure exactly where it was left at. I mean, the idea is if you start deleting old executions, it gets very dicey with linking things back, and if you try and access them. So doing it cleanly is a difficult problem. But I certainly see the appeal of it. We should certainly revisit it.
I will leave this open. We need to probably reach out. This guy put out like a PR already for this some time ago, like a month ago. Okay. I think it's a bug. 270 looks like a small bug. 271, then you can probably say a few words about the fast cache and like what exactly is coming 1.3.
Yeah. So from a very high level, like Flyte Propeller in the background, when it detects or executes a cache task, it requires a number of different phase transitions at the task level and consequently at the node level as well. And so what should be an extremely fast operation, or what users expect to be an extremely fast operation, can be slowed down in implementation because of things like updating, the CRD and etcd. If there's phase changes or 3 phase changes that has to happen to ensure correctness in the system, we update that CRD 3 different times with the node status updates. This idea of fast caching is this operation we can do just in one step, and we can evaluate downstream nodes all in the same step while still ensuring correctness of the operation. So we should be able to evaluate cache tasks extremely fast, and this will have significant impact in workflows where you have 8, 10, multiple cache tasks that are chained as dependencies of one another. These should just require 10 lookups to see if they're cached or not. If it's a cache hit, should be measurable in milliseconds for the execution of this. So we're very excited about the performance implications of this. It should be a cool feature.
Nice.
Can I add one more thing to this though? I think we've seen this multiple times, and I know Dan and I have also had a chat about this, is caching at the sub workflow and the workflow level itself. I think lots of people have been talking about this. I'm not saying we need to wrap it into the same task, but probably a small RSC on that might be what we would like.
Yeah, and so now that you brought that into it, you opened up a whole can of worms. I can mention a few quick things about this. Currently, caching's handled at the task level in Flyte Propeller, and so there are implications on that. And so as part of the change for this fast cache work, we're proposing moving caching to be handled at the node level, which internally doesn't mean a lot to most people when they're talking about this, but internally in Flyte Propeller execution, it means that handling caching of sub workflows and launch plans and all this other stuff turns into a very easy task once this changes in. So yeah, once we get fast caching working, I know sub workflows, launch plans, kind of caching anything in the workflow type level is something that a lot of people have been very interested in for a very long time. So it should be very possible very quickly following this work.
I think the problems over there are how do you correctly identify the uniqueness of a workflow. I think that's really, in my opinion, a challenge. But that deserves an RFC.
Yep.
Nice. Just in terms of features, 274. Is this related to what Stripe was asking about then?
So this is exactly what Stripe was asking about, actually.
Okay.
And I have a fix implemented, so it's in PR right now. I should be changing this up, assign it to myself, and change to in review. But yeah, so if there's a resource quota that's set to 2 CPUs or something like that, and the user has a task that they try to execute that requires 3 CPUs, right now there's a weird back off in Flyte Propeller that allows this to just run and continue to try and schedule that task where it will never be possible to schedule it. So now with this change, we detect that, we fail that task right away, saying we're never going to be able to schedule it once this gets merged.
But that's not true, isn't it? You could change the resource quota.
You could, but in its current state, it will never get scheduled. So
it will, right? If you update you mean in the current state of the resource quota?
In the current state of the resource quota, it's impossible. So you either have tasks that sit around and just wait until the node execution deadline in Flyte Propeller, which defaults to 48 hours, just waits and waits and waits and waits forever, or we say it can't be scheduled here unless user updates the resource quota, and we return that in an error message to the UI.
Okay. And how do you determine that? You look at the instantaneous value of the resource quota?
You look at the instantaneous value of the resource quota. So that's how it works right now internally on the plugin manager backoff controller. So to determine the backoffs, is it looks at what's currently scheduled and what capacity we have to schedule.
Yeah, but isn't that like string parsing or something?
We can talk about it more offline if you'd like, but yeah.
Yeah, I would like to understand. I think Okay. I see why you're doing this. It's just that the same thing will apply to, let's say, a GPU. Let's say you say, I want a GPU, but the GPU nodes are just not available. Could mean two things, is that one day somebody may add a GPU node, or two, we never going to have a GPU node, right? And I don't know what the right answer for this is, right? It's like Kubernetes scheduler itself does not take a decision at this point, because you could add machines. They're decoupled actions. But let's, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess that's not entirely true though, right? Because we get in. So when we try and create a pod that has resource requests that are larger than what's available in the Kubernetes cluster, it returns an error and says you can't schedule this.
No, really?
Yes,
Oh.
that's what's happening in this case. Is we try and create a pod that has resource requests that are larger than the resource quotas available.
Is it larger, or is it just beyond the current use? Like, let's say if I have a 10 resource quota of 10 and I'm using 8 already, and now I request 3. So
yeah, and so these two, the two use cases are different. So it doesn't take into account the amount used currently. What we're saying is if the quota is 10 and you request 12, fail.
Yeah.
If you request 3 and 3 is just not available right now,
is that obvious from an observer point of view, like from Flyte point of view?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah,
Yep.
It's interesting. I actually feel this should be an opt-in behavior, but like probably default could be opt-in, but or maybe an opt-out behavior. Cool, awesome.
Sure.
Nice. Yeah. Finally, the last, this 275 last ticket, it goes in the same vein as the improving the dev experience. Like, we feel that sometimes people want to make to experiment, with the demo and the sandbox deployments, and adding this pre-check flag will just allow for a faster iteration cycle. So we're also investing in that. It's actually that's already in review. There is one feature that's not captured in the ticket yet, but where we decided to commit to this release. We briefly touched on it already, which is out of core plugins. We feel that this will help simplify the whole contribution story. If you right now, all backend plugins are shipped alongside with the propeller binary, and that prevents a faster iteration. And we can also have a simpler model for plugins that not necessarily need to be implemented in Go. So keep your eyes out for an RFC, and eventually some of this work being done in 1.3. And with that, I will stop sharing. Cool. Let me I guess I'll see you again in 3 months.